I actually was paid to gamble. I was,
Really?
yes, I was paid to go to a casino resort and stay 2 nights and 3 days gambling, eating, shopping. Paid to do that.
Well, welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Imagine getting paid to gamble, dine at restaurants, or even take a cruise. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, that's exactly what Mercedes Eckhart does. With 12 years of experience as a mystery shopper and now a trainer in the industry, she's given us the inside scoop on how to break in and succeed. Mystery shopping is a side hustle where you get paid to visit businesses anonymously and then report back on things like customer service, cleanliness, and overall experience. And while you won't land a casino or a cruise gig on your first day, Mercedes shares how to start strong and work your way up. In this episode, she shares how mystery shopping actually works and what kinds of businesses hire shoppers. I had no idea how many types of businesses actually hire mystery shoppers, from restaurants to airlines. We'll learn where to find legit gigs and how to avoid scams, a smart way to plan your mystery shopping so that you can make more in less time. And of course, we talk about potential earnings and what separates the top earners. Now, here to tell us about a flexible way to bring in extra cash is mystery shopper and founder of iShop AGP, Mercedes Eckhart. Welcome, Mercedes.
Thank you for having me, Joan.
Well, let me ask you, what is the craziest or out of the ordinary thing that you've ever been paid to do as a mystery shopper?
It was a good one. I actually was paid to gamble. I was,
Really?
yes, I was paid to go to a casino resort and stay 2 nights and 3 days gambling, eating, shopping. Paid to do that.
Paid to do that. Really?
Paid to do
Okay, I got to ask you a few things about this. I'm new to mystery shopping, like as some of our listeners and viewers will be. So this is fabulous. What was it that you were actually asked to assess when you were there?
So I had to assess the staff, the cleanliness of the area of where you play the casino and the hotel part of it as well, restrooms. I was asked to evaluate the restaurants. So you know how a casino has multiple restaurants in it. We had to go to each one, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and had to evaluate the service there, the food. We had to evaluate the gift shop, everything.
Oh, you poor thing. Wow, somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it.
Well, for someone who's never done this before, how does mystery shopping actually work?
Right. So this is good.
Okay.
So mystery shopping, it's a job that pays people, normal folks. It pays them to go into businesses pretending to be a regular customer,
Okay.
but they're actually there to evaluate and spy on the employees and their customer experience. So I go into these places. I don't stand out or don't announce myself. I just blend in with the other customers, but I'm
Right.
actually observing my experience. And in return for those observations, I'm paid. And sometimes I even get free stuff, free food, free services, right? So that's in a nutshell how it works. You're paid for your feedback.
And what type of businesses would use this?
Just about every business you can think of. Movie theaters, restaurants, theme parks, hotels, casinos, strip clubs, churches, salons, the government. Everybody uses mystery shoppers.
I love that. From churches to strip clubs.
Yeah, it's wild.
Well, how much can someone expect to make as a mystery shopper?
The average that we have seen, it varies, and I can put that in two categories. So the people that do this as a side hustle, meaning this isn't their full-time job, this is something that they do on the side, 200 to 500 a week is what our shoppers average, okay? And then you do have people that fall in love with it and they get addicted. It is very addicting, by the way. And so we have full-time shoppers that this is their main source of income. And those shoppers typically average 1,000 plus a week.
Really? There's people doing this full time?
There are. We had one lady last year for 2024. She finished out the year at $74,000.
Wow. Very nice to shop and eat and
Yes,
evaluate.
exactly.
Who's actually doing the hiring? Is it the brand or are there mystery shopping companies that the brands turn to?
Right. So, yes, the brands hire the mystery shopping providers, and they are the ones that facilitate the mystery shopping program. So, it's not typically done in house. You're not going to walmart.com and signing up to be a mystery shopper. They outsource that. Okay. So, yeah, you're right on that.
Ah, okay. So suppose I wanted to start today.
Mhm.
Maybe not necessarily day one at the casino, but wanted to start. I'm a beginner at this. Where would I even begin to start to find some legitimate mystery shopping gigs?
Yeah. So good question. So what I would advise any person that's interested in mystery shopping and what I tell them every day is you want to get started through an MSO, which is a mystery shopping organization. And a mystery shopping organization, their job is to recruit and they train shoppers for the providers and they connect you with the jobs. And so the best place so that because there are a lot of scams out there, unfortunately.
Yes,
This
I will ask
industry.
you about that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So to bypass that and all of the rigmarole, you want to go through an MSO, and that's a surefire way to get started in a safe way, knowing that everything is legitimate, and that's your fast track to success.
So there's some fairly, I guess, common or well-known providers out there,
I don't know if they would be common, but in the industry, they would be well known.
like ones that a person could sign up on a platform kind of thing.
Yeah. So you contract to work with the provider and they provide, hey, here's a list of shops or jobs, whatever you want to call them. They provide those and you can select which ones you want to do. It's very flexible. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
no boss. Yeah, no
Yeah, yeah.
boss telling you when or what to do.
Could you give us the names of the top three that are your go-tos or your favorites?
So I will go with the ones that partner with me and my company. Yeah. So we love Grace Hill. That was provider of the year. They're great. That was, I'll probably say them. And another one is Amusement Advantage. They're great as well. And then you said three. So I'll give you another one. That would be, gosh, there's so many to choose from. I'm like, if
Okay.
they're listening, they're like, why didn't you say my name? Let's see. I would go with Servermer. And yeah.
Server Mer?
It's Servimer.
Oh, okay. So these are examples of companies that the brands would reach out to and say, hey, give me some mystery shoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so what, I guess, criteria do these companies have for choosing one mystery shopper over another? Or did they post these jobs and it's first come, first serve? How does that piece of it work?
So typically it's first come, first serve. There are higher end shops, higher paying shops, or more sought after shops that it's not really first come, first serve. It's who is reliable. Who have I seen
Mhm.
that's done the smaller shops? We can rely on them to get the job done. So the big shops, they're just not given to anybody, right? So that's why the training and the experience comes into play for those.
Got it. So not everybody's going to get that Nordstrom gig, for example.
Right, right.
So how does one break through to these more lucrative or choice jobs?
Gain experience. So I always tell our new shoppers, I say, hey, you're starting from the bottom, like at any job, right? Get your feet wet, do all kinds of shops. Don't be picky. I see people that come in and they immediately say, well, I want to do a casino shop like you, or I want to do a cruise mystery shop, but they've never done one little shop at a fast food joint. And so I'm like, they're number one, you're not going to get it because you have no experience. And number two, let's say you were to get that. Maybe they were desperate, didn't have anybody else to do it. And you got that shop, you would totally bomb that because you've not even done the basics, right?
Right. Yep.
So I tell shoppers when you first get started, do every shop at least once or twice to get your feet wet and gain that experience.
What did you mean by every shop?
Well, there's all sorts of different shops. So you've
Okay.
got shops at movie theaters and gas stations and
I see.
restaurants. So yes, so do all of them so that you have that experience. Because for instance, a casino shop, that's a combination of several
Right.
different types of shops.
Yeah.
You've got restaurant in there, you've got retail, and you've got hotel, right? So if you've never done any of those separately, you're looking at a big task and you're likely to mess up, right?
Right. Okay. I was thinking about that when you mentioned the possibility of doing one of these on a cruise as well, because that's like a floating city. So that would have everything from the movie theater to the shops to the food.
Right.
Yeah.
Lots
Huh.
of areas to observe.
And to be honest with you, I never even thought that there would be a mystery shopper on a cruise. It makes sense now that you mention it, Mercedes, but yeah, the
It's
possibilities
crazy.
are endless. Yeah.
It really is. I always tell people the sky is the limit. I have actually been paid to fly. So you can get free flights. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
How long have you been doing this for?
I have been a mystery shopper for 12 years.
And how did you get started?
You know what? That's a good question. I ran into a young lady that was in the industry and she helped me get my foot in the door and I've never looked back. I never, ever. It's been a dream. I'm like, every few days, I'm like, pinch me. Am I really getting paid to do this? This is just crazy. But yeah.
I have a relative, my sister, actually. I love her dearly. I often kid that she got all the shopping genes in the family. She would excel at this.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the word, or you referred to the scams, the frauds out there. What are some red flags that might indicate if we came across an ad or something for one of these?
Yeah. So a lot of the scams are in your mailbox, in your email, and your text.
Okay.
You'll have scammers that will send you things, for instance, a check in the mail. And it'll say, here's a check for $2,000 for if you go wire this check, this is for you, but it's a mystery shop. For one, it doesn't make any sense. It's just basic reading comprehension. You will know. You'll have a little red flag go off like, this sounds too good to be true. Cashing a check, I get to keep it out of the blue. So that would be a form of a scam. Another one is getting like a letter or a text, and they'll ask you, and I say they'll have some bogus name, right?
Yes.
And they'll ask you, or sometimes they pose as a legitimate company. Sometimes they use it's crazy, but they'll tell you, go down the street to the drugstore and we want you to buy gift cards. And then we want you to scratch off the gift card number and send it to us. And then we will pay you $500. And there have been people that do that. And I'm like, guys, no, don't do that. So yeah, that's another scam. And unfortunately, Joan, this industry has been riddled with scams. And the thing is, it's been around since the 1940s. Mystery shopping has been here for a very long time, but because of these scammers, it's really given the industry a bad reputation. And in my opinion, I don't think that the good guys that were running the industry did a good job at informing the public and making them aware of these things. And so I believe that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much success now is because we're making the public aware the difference between legitimate mystery shopping and scams.
Right. Let's loop back a minute. You said if a person was doing this as a side hustle, we might be looking at $200 to $500 a week. What does that entail? What's the average earnings per shop?
And honestly, Joan, it really varies because the shops pay, there's no hourly range. It's paid per job, right?
Yep.
So you have some shops that could be 15, 20. You have some shops that could be 50, 75, 100
dollars
so,
per visit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So there's such a broad spectrum.
Okay.
It's hard to just pin that down. There are plenty of times where a shopper will make that $200 to $500 in one day of mystery shopping. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and it could have been one shop. I had a shopper 2 weeks ago. She picked up a $700 shop. Now we call that a unicorn. Yeah, we call that a unicorn shop. Not every shop is that much, but what I'm saying is it could be you did one shop that week and made that much, or you did 10, maybe you did 20, maybe you did 5. It really varies.
Sure. But starting out day one, what would someone anticipate to be the amount that they would be paid for a shop?
So I always tell beginners to expect to see shops for anywhere between 10 to 20, $25 a shop.
Okay.
And those are the ones you want to start with because that means there's not as much involved as the higher paying ones. So that's how you get your feet wet, you get that experience, and
Yes.
then you will see higher paying shops and you are more likely to get those when you've done the smaller ones.
Okay. So say I see one of those ads for, we'll say $10. So let's backtrack a little bit. So I've registered with one of these platforms, one of these providers, and I see something listed. I think, oh, that's for me. It's in my neighborhood. I click on it.
Right.
And then is it automatically mine at that point to go and do?
Typically, yeah, you don't really have any issues. Sometimes you can instantly get those, and then sometimes you need approval before they give it to you. So it just depends. If it was an instant one, then yes, it's instantly yours. If not, you might have to wait a few hours to get approval.
And then they will provide me basically a list of what they want me to do there. Is that how it works?
Exactly. There will always be instructions on what you need to do. You don't just go in and guess.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So then take me through that process then. I've clicked it, I've been awarded it, and I see a list of what I need to do. So then what happens?
You will read those instructions. I tell people, read them thoroughly because this is the part of the job that is very important. If you don't follow the instructions, you're not going to get paid. So you'll read those instructions and then you will go do exactly what they told you to do. You'll go into the store and whatever they've told you to evaluate, areas that they've told you to observe, you're going to do that. And then you will report that, what you found, right? You'll report that back and in return, you'll be paid.
What would be an example for something that I might be looking for and reporting on for, say, that $10 range?
Yeah. So depending on what type of shop it is, it'll be customer service. A lot of times you're evaluating the employee, maybe having a little interaction with them.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll be asked to look at the restrooms, right? Are they clean? Are they well stocked? You could be asked to look at signage. What was the signage in the window? Did it match the current promotion, etc.? It just varies. It really depends on the business that you're going to and what they're wanting to get some feedback on.
And would they ever ask for photos to be submitted as well?
Yes. So sometimes you do have to take photos and that helps them get an idea. And also it just verifies that you actually were there because unfortunately you have people that they're not being very honest and they might say, oh, I did the shop and just give bogus information. So photos are a great way to verify you were where you said you were at the time you said you were.
That's really sad. It doesn't really surprise me what you just said, but it's sad because the person's really only cheating themselves. Like seriously, if they want to get that airline job or the cruise, you don't do it by blowing off a job and basically lying about it.
Right.
So in the examples that you've given, they've basically all been like a service aspect. Are you ever asked to buy a product?
Yeah, there are shops that require you to make a purchase. Now, typically, they don't tell you what to buy. There are a few shops that I've done over 12 years. They wanted me to buy something specific, but it's not super common. Usually, you can buy whatever you want. And once you buy that, it's more about the buying experience. And I think some people get mystery shopping confused with product review. This isn't product review. So typically, you're not reviewing the product or the service. Sometimes you are, or they might ask you one or two questions, but it's more focused on the experience and the process, things like that.
Got it. And do they ever also then have you buy something and then return it as part of the process as well, as far as the evaluation? Yeah.
Absolutely. That is a type of shop.
I very rarely ever return something. But when you see the reaction from the person that you're dealing with in the company, it makes a huge difference whether you're going to be a future buyer or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. That was a good question to ask because that is something that they want to evaluate, that return and policy.
Well, if we're looking at $10 a visit, $12 a visit, that can actually take a bunch of time to do. Are there strategies for maximizing earnings? Can you take a look at what's offered and pick a bunch in the same area or the same plaza or something like that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. So the strategy for that is called route shopping. Okay. And this is where you would do a route of shops. It's not just, oh, I'm going to do the shop and then come home. It's, okay, I'm going to take a few hours and I'm going to do these 10 mystery shops across town. Right. And the lower paying shops, those are called filler shops, okay?
Okay.
And then you have your anchor shops, which are the higher paying ones. So let's say you have a route of 10 shops. Let's say 5 of them are $40 shops and the other 5 are $15 shops, right? So you have your anchor and your filler, and you just complete those on that route. And after a few hours, it adds up fast.
Yes.
And so any of our shoppers that, especially the full-time shoppers, this is what they're doing on a daily basis. This
Sure.
is how they're making hundreds of dollars in a day.
Yes, they're very strategic. They're looking at Google Maps and saying, okay, here's my anchor ones that I want to nail, and
Right.
what can I fill in between to pay for the gas? And
Yeah,
got
exactly.
it. Yeah, because you are just being paid that amount that's posted on the site, correct? Gas
Yes.
expenses, everything else would be your own.
Right, right.
And I guess that's part of the evaluation too, is how detailed or how quick is that report back to the provider need to be, right?
Well, they give you a deadline. So
Okay.
whenever you go do a shop, they usually say, hey, give us the feedback within a specific amount of time or by a certain time. And so you can submit that as well.
How long does it take to complete whatever evaluation it is that they ask you?
It varies.
Okay.
It varies by shop. So let's say you do a $15 shop at a retail store and the report was 30 questions. Well, that might take you about 10 minutes to fill out. There's a lot of variables in this industry because everybody is different. And I've learned this. Some people, they're a little slower to fill out things. Some of them are very detailed, which I tell shoppers to stray away from being overly detailed, because that's when you are prolonging your job when it's not necessary.
Okay.
So I tell shoppers, just give them the facts. Whatever they asked, tell them that, and that's it. Don't overly give detail, and you'll be fine as far as on time. It doesn't have to be time consuming. So.
Right. Okay. And then, like you said earlier, when you accept that job, you know exactly what it's going to take, how many questions, that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
And I suppose the other argument for brevity too is the individual receiving it from at the provider's end. They don't want to go through pages and pages of notes when it could all be condensed down to one or a paragraph, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time is precious.
Is there ever a scenario where rates are negotiated, or that doesn't happen?
It can happen. Sometimes if the company has a deadline, or maybe they just need it done faster, they sometimes will say, hey, this was originally 15, but we're going to bump it to 25 to entice shoppers to pick it up so they can get it done.
Right. But as far as the shopper being able to negotiate, does that ever happen? Maybe possibly just at the higher end when they know,
Yeah.
for example,
So
Mercedes going to nail this and she'll do it quick for us.
usually when it's out of the way. So if it is a shop, so you can negotiate. So let's say there's a shop, same situation I was just talking about, that needs to be done quickly. Maybe it is somewhere so rural that not a lot of shoppers live out there, right? And so they might bump it up, but maybe somebody still lives an hour away and they're like, well, that's still not enough to make it worth my while. So then the shopper can say, hey, I will do this, but I'm going to need a little bit more pay. And so they could ask, and sometimes they do get approved. So yes, sometimes it is negotiable. I tell shoppers, just don't be greedy. So I don't talk about it too much, because I think as a beginner mystery shopper, some of them will, well, this doesn't pay enough, so I'm going to ask them. They're never going to give you anything if they think all you're trying to do is get them to pay extra on all these. They'll just have
Sure.
somebody else do it who will do it for the price they asked. But there are times that if pressed, you can negotiate.
So given your 12 years experience in the industry, are there opportunities then for someone who tries this out, they really enjoy it, they want to continue doing it and really building up that reputation? Is there opportunities there to develop those relationships with the providers? You're not just yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the biggest factors in getting work that is very consistent, and the high paying shops. Your reputation is built by providing good work and building relationships with the various people in the industry.
Are there types of gigs to avoid, certain industries or products?
No,
Things that
I don't tell anybody to avoid anything
Okay.
because everybody is so different that you have some shoppers that there will be a type of shop that they absolutely love and then other people absolutely hate. And so that's what makes mystery shopping so beautiful is it's so versatile. It's not everybody's doing a mystery shop at a restaurant. No, there's gas stations, there's theme parks, there's hotels. And you, after getting that experience, you really get into your niche. So my shoppers hear me say all the time, do not be picky. You can be picky once you've done this a while. I've been in it 12 years. I'm picky, but at the beginning, you can't afford to be picky. Okay.
Yeah, get that experience under your belt too.
Right.
Well, when you are doing something like that, I think you called it route shopping.
Yes. Yes.
How do you stay organized when juggling multiple mystery shopping assignments like that in the same trip or the same day?
Well, that's a loaded question because
Okay.
there's a lot of different tips and tricks out there to stay organized. You know, but having a planner, that would be really basic
Okay.
because you have shoppers that are like, oh, I forgot to write this down or put it in my calendar and I forgot to do it. You can't forget to go to work, guys. So
Yep.
keeping a calendar or a planner or whatever format that you want that in when you're actually on the route, there's a lot of things you can do to prepare for that. Little gadgets you might want to make sure you have in your phone charger and having snacks in your car, having notebook and paper, like all of these things that can go into the prep. But keeping it organized, it comes down to you just implementing these things.
Yes. And I guess when you walk into the store, probably on your phone, you've got the list of questions that you're going to have to answer while
Mm.
you're in there. You make sure that you're seeing everything that you, how do you
I am
navigate that?
I'm sure that some shoppers might do that. I don't advise to have your guidelines open because you never know if somebody could see that or if the cameras can pick it up. And I know that there are
Oh,
some
yeah.
mystery shops where they specifically tell you when you are inside, do not pull up your instructions.
Right.
So typically, what I tell shoppers is read your instructions right before you get out of your car and go in, right?
Yep.
So you do have to remember, right?
Mhm.
You do
Okay.
have to remember things.
Okay. And then when you go back to your car, once you've done that, is that when you jot down all your notes?
Yeah, I wouldn't trust my brain to remember at the end of the day. So I tell everybody take notes immediately once you sit down in your car. Get something out, whether it's your phone or a pen and paper, and write it all down, everything that you just took in.
It would be so easy to confuse it too if you're doing multiple things, multiple locations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why it would be important after every shop that you don't try to do three and then write it down. Do it
Right.
after each shop. So then
Okay.
you can forget about it and move on to the next one.
Right. And then do you do the submission to the provider right there in your car, or do you wait till the end of the day and just take a look at it all once you get home?
Personally, I do the latter, but there's shoppers who do either or. It really just depends on you and what you want to do and what your schedule's like. If you've got time to sit in your car and fill out the report, I wouldn't necessarily say that you should do that parked right outside
I
of
know.
the client, but maybe pull away. But some shoppers do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what is that process then after you've done the inspection, evaluation? How do you get paid? What's the process?
Yeah. So you submit that feedback, what the company gets that feedback and they approve it, okay it to pay, right? You followed the instructions, you gathered the information that they wanted you to. And then on payday, you will get paid what you were supposed to get paid. And then the client gets their feedback to look over it and
Yep.
decide on things for their business, right? To, at the end of the day, increase bottom line and retention. So.
And what is that turnaround time for payment usually? I would imagine it varies on the provider, but
It does. It varies on the provider. So just like any job, they have their pay schedule. So it could be every few weeks, it could be once a month. It just depends on the provider and what their pay schedule is.
but it would be reasonable to expect nothing over 30 days.
Yeah, I think I can only think of one provider that does every 45 to 60 days, but yeah, most of them don't. They pay sooner than that. Now, there aren't any companies that like pay daily. And I know in our age of the gig economy with Uber and DoorDash and Instacart, we're so used to getting paid like instantly and cashing out. But the mystery shopping companies cannot do that because they're not getting paid by the client every day.
Right.
So it does take time to process their payments on their end as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. What's the biggest mistake that you see new mystery shoppers make?
That's a good one.
How much time we got this interview, she says?
Right? Not following instructions. That's the
Okay.
biggest thing. Not following instructions, not following the path that like you don't have to figure all this out on your own, right? So there's a path. Just follow the plan, read the instructions, and you'll do fine. It comes down to reading. Really, at the basic level, reading.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people skim over stuff or they get squirrel brain and they're like, well, what about this? And what about this? And we're like, no, just keep on the straight and narrow. These things will come into play later and down the road. I think people just tend to get squirrely because this is an industry that it's like the shiny object syndrome because there's so many cool shops to do and it's a whole new world. People are used to other type of side hustles, MLM and direct sales and things like that, which are great, but it's trained us to think a certain way. And this industry is completely different. So I think people get a little bit squirrely with all the shiny things and the information.
So stop, take time to read the instructions before you submit it. Make sure you've covered them all.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me, Mercedes. I'm sure you've experienced this too. You get this email back. You've sent out an email and somebody writes back with a question and you're like, they didn't even read the email. Like it was right there. They probably
That
just
happens
skimmed
all the
it, just
time.
like you said. And it's
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being new to mystery shopping myself, it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know. Is there
Right.
anything that I should have asked you that I haven't yet?
You know what? I think that you've asked great questions. I don't think that there's any big thing that you've missed. You've been very thorough in your questioning.
All right. Then, so another important question. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Great. I'm glad you asked. So they can go to our website and we have a free mystery shopping webinar and it's only 35 minutes. And I walk you through just the ins and outs of mystery shopping and avoiding scams and how mystery shopping works. I take you through that. So that's where I would tell listeners if they want to get started in this industry to check out that free webinar.
And what's the website?
It is www.ishopagp.com. So iShopAndGetPaid.com.
Ah, okay. Lovely. Well, I'll definitely drop the link in the show notes.
Thank you.
And so you're actually training people to do this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So if they choose to, they can go in deeper in terms of the training with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Well, what's your best tip, Mercedes, to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
My best tip would be to just do it. There's a lot of, I know we hear that all the time, but seriously, I think a lot of times fear of not succeeding keeps us from giving things a try. And there are also a lot of amazing side hustles out there. And it's, well, which one is going to work best for me? Well, go with your gut or go with logic. Sometimes those fight against the two, but fight against each other. But go with what makes the most sense for your schedule, for your personality. And guess what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Pivot and try something else.
Great. And from what you've described, this is pretty a low barrier to entry side hustle. You can give this a try at a very low cost. Because really, you don't have any startup costs. Do the platforms charge a fee?
No.
Nope. Okay. So no cost to start, other your time, probably gas to get to where you're going. Well, thank you so much, Mercedes, for taking the mystery out of what's involved in being a mystery shopper, and of course, for being today's side hustle hero.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let's talk scams for a moment. Mercedes mentioned that mystery shopping has been, her words, riddled with scams over the years. One version of the check cashing scam that I've heard is where you're supposedly evaluating a bank. The scammer sends you a check, let's say $1,000, and tells you to deposit $700 into a specific bank account, while you get to keep $300 as payment for your work. But here's the catch. The check, of course, is fake. When it bounces, the bank withdraws the full $1,000 from your account, and if you don't have the funds, you're still on the hook for it, plus fees. It's the same old saying that you and I have heard time and time again. If it sounds too good to be true, yeah, it probably is. I'm really grateful to Mercedes for sharing 3 of the mystery shopping providers that she works with. I'll drop links to the show notes so that you can check them out. Just a reminder, brands typically outsource their mystery shopping to these providers, and those providers are the ones running the programs. Mercedes, on the other hand, runs an MSO, a mystery shopping organization that trains mystery shoppers. And here's another scam to watch out for, the gift card scam. Now, Mercedes warned about mystery shopping scams that ask you to buy and send gift cards. Huge red flag. But here's another version that's been making the rounds, and while it's not related to mystery shopping, it's something to be aware of. Scammers steal gift cards off store shelves, take them home, record the card numbers, reseal the packaging, and return them to its store location. Then, an unsuspecting customer buys the tampered card and loads money onto it, without even realizing that the scammer now has access to those funds. Within minutes, the balance is drained. If you're buying a gift card, try to get one that's been stored securely, or at least examine it really closely before purchasing. I'm glad we could shine a light on the legit side of mystery shopping and the red flags to watch out for.
Well, that's a wrap for today. In the episode description, you'll also find a link to Mercedes' iShopAGP.com, as well as a link back to the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you've benefited in any way from any of our episodes, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the favorite episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.